Well, I think
Moving
New Orleans
on.
plays for the Thunder.
Little playoff
Oh, the
proof.
Thunder. My apologies.
Lamar
Thank
Jackson.
you, Wiles.
That's why it confused us all.
No, that's my
Lamar
apologies.
Jackson
You're
might
totally
have
right.
taken
Bad job
home
by me.
some. All right, we're going to switch gears completely. It's in the past. Lamar Jackson took home MVP honors last season. Wasn't enough to satisfy the Ravens quarterback, who saw his season cut short by the Titans. Hey, it was an early playoff exit for Lamar for the second straight year. How much does that bother him? Well, it bothers him a lot, apparently. This from Lamar this week. I think about it a lot. To be honest with you, that's where I want to be. That's when everything gets crucial. It's tough because it's win or go home. I'm tired of going home. I just can't wait to get back in that same spot and perform at a whole other level. Nick, he's still young, Lamar Jackson, entering his third year in the league, but coming off an MVP season, how much pressure should Lamar Jackson feel to lead the Ravens on a deep playoff run heading into this season?
Well, he's got to win a playoff game. And this is a time where you become a victim of your own success to a degree because he's started less than 30 games in the NFL. But when you take a team that's dead in the water in your rookie year and lead them to the playoffs, and then you have the worst game of your career up to that point in the playoffs, and then you follow that up by leading the team to a 14-2 record-breaking season, you're the unanimous league MVP, and then you have your worst game of the year in that playoff game. You start the game off with a pick, you throw a back-breaking pick at the end, you get stuffed on a couple 4th and 1s. The Wolves are going to be at the gate for him, Wilds, because a lot of people Lamar has proven them wrong. And folks hate admitting they're wrong. People hate being wrong. I'm going to be bothered by the fact that I accidentally just said Nerlens Noel was on the Nuggets instead of the Thunder for the next 3 weeks. And so, I mean, much less give an opinion. No, it's going to kill me. All my analysis worked except for the fact that I said the wrong team. But it's not the point. So, folks crushed Lamar coming into the league. So they don't want to give him his due. And Wilds, if he has another great regular season and then falls flat in the playoffs, people are going to annihilate him. He knows that. And so there is immense pressure on him. They don't have to win the Super Bowl, but he has to have a really good game in the playoffs and win a playoff game, or else there's going to be this but attached to him until that changes.
Yeah, you know whose fault this is? It's a little bit of your fault in the Kansas City Chiefs, Nick. If Patrick Mahomes didn't win the Super Bowl, I feel like Lamar is able to take a breath and be like, look, we're just young quarterbacks. We're trying to figure it out. So, Mike, the question I have to you is, if you're buying the Mahomes, like, parallel, was there a guy that you judged yourself against in the league? And if that person had success, did you internalize that, and did that put more pressure on you?
Well, it put more pressure on you to go out and win a playoff game because you watch those who come before you. You see them make it to, the postseason. You see what it's like. You see the atmosphere, and it's like, man, that's where I want to end up. Nick said something that was very true. You can become a victim of your own success. My second year, we was able to put a pile of wins together throughout the season, and we found ourselves in the playoffs in Green Bay, and we beat Green Bay in the playoffs. And from there, I just thought that playoff success would come year in and year out. I did win a game in 2004, but you get used to that success. So I see what happened to Lamar in the regular season. Things came so easy, that he thought it was going to be a walk in the park come playoff time. But that's when you got to step it up. That's when things get magnified and amplified. You got to be ready for those moments, man. And I know why he's itching to get back out there, because you only get one shot. It's one and done in the playoffs, and it's something that'll haunt you for the entire year. So I know what those seasons felt like when we didn't make the playoffs because you wanted to make it so bad. And then when you, like I said, when you put together, such a stellar season, you want to cap it off with something great. But this is the thing that Lamar can hang his hat on. After Patrick Mahomes won the MVP, he followed it up with a Super Bowl. High expectations, but it's something to kind of use as a tool, to get to where you need to go for this season.
And then he followed the Super Bowl up with a $500 million contract, which if Lamar follows that, if the Ravens win the Super Bowl, Lamar will be able, if he wants it, he'll get the contract Mahomes got. Like, if he wants it, if they win the Super Bowl, he absolutely has no reason not to ask for that same exact deal, and the Ravens would give it to him. So there's that internal pressure. But, Mike, I want to kick it back to you for a second, because you and Lamar get talked about alongside each other a lot. But what I was talking about with there being a certain, almost cottage industry of not just fans, but some media members that seem to be waiting for him to fail. I felt similarly with you. Folks that just said, you got to win from the pocket. You have to win this style of quarterbacking. Did you feel that? Did you feel like there was almost it's never going to be enough unless I do win the Super Bowl to prove to these folks you can win a different style of quarterbacking?
Yeah, because I came into the game playing a different style of quarterbacking, like you said, I heard all types of whispers and noise all around me that this style wouldn't last. So constantly I was trying to prove that this style could last and could win football games. So everything I was doing, the motivation was coming from a lot of different places, but I think the main source was just from the media, from the fans, from the crowd, from people who, felt like that, I couldn't last 16 games. And a majority of the time I didn't last 16, but I was there for, at least 90% of the season. But yeah, it's unfair that, you got to continuously prove yourself in all areas, from your style of play to, the way you go out and play the game and how you go out and make things happen from a competent level. It's just all types of pressures that you have to deal with as a quarterback, especially when you look different, when you play different. But it's all a part of it, and it made the game more exciting to me. It made me, put more time and effort into my craft, and it brought out the best out of me, so to speak.
Mike, I think what you said about living up to those expectations, especially coming out of school, is so important. I want to bring up an old tweet of yours from back in 2016 when Lamar was still at Louisville. You wrote, Lamar is 5 times better than I was at Virginia Tech. Enough said. You saw this coming when Lamar was in college. He's 2 seasons now under his belt, coming off an MVP year. Do you think he's lived up to those expectations, the kind you just talked about so far? Or would he need to make a deep playoff run for you to grade him higher than he is right now?
Yeah, Jen, I think he's lived up to those expectations. Actually, he superseded those expectations. And that was a bold statement that I made on that day. But when I'm watching a guy, put together a remarkable performance against one of the best teams in the country. And I think the biggest caveat was that he was doing it in a spread system. And I'm like, if any team in the NFL, not college right now because he's mastered the college game, this game shows that if any team in the NFL bring him in and run that same system, he's going to look the same. And that wasn't the case for me. I came in, had Dan Reeves, and then I ran the West Coast system for a couple of years. If somebody starts out with Lamar running the spread system, then he will be very successful and he will be better than me in the National Football League. And it turned out to be true. I still hang my hat on that and I still believe that. And it's funny because, my coach, who I had in Philadelphia, Marty Morningwig, he heard those statements and he heard that statement and he knew that I said that for a reason. Next thing you know, he drafts Lamar. And Lamar becomes a Raven. So we talked about that up until this point, up until that point that, this guy could change the game. You just can't make him run the system that, you think he needs to run. Do what, he's done over the past couple of years. And, once they did that, Lamar became a different player. And, we'll get used to seeing this, man. Lamar's not going to change. Obviously the monkey on his back now is winning the playoff game. So, he's exceeded my expectations and I expect him to go further.
And he's proved a lot of naysayers wrong in the process. All right, moving on from one young phenom to the next. Did Zion Williamson put fear into the rest of the West last night? That's next. First things first.
Zion, another key part of the Nuggets' future.